Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you here at the last presentation, this will mark a move from a submarine environment to a subterranean environment. Geological disposal facility. I was looking at one of the presentations this morning and someone asked me about the Flowers report, which was written and published back in the 70s calling for a permanent disposal solution for radioactive waste. And I was thinking, yes, and you talk to a lot of people today, and when they say, you say, I work on the GDF, RWM, they just say good luck. So I think what I'm going to try and do today is to talk about the importance for the supply chain of the GDF and also bring you up to date as to where we are at the moment. It is important for the supply chain because it is part of the nuclear story. It's the end point of the nuclear industry. And if we don't have it, then there's a bit missing. There will be work from the GDF, but clearly as we don't have a site yet, and the siting process is not complete, it's beginning to ramp up, but slowly. But let me take you through some of it. So just a brief bit on who we are, Radioactive Waste Management. We're a delivery organisation for the Geological Disposal Facility in the UK. We're part of the NDA, a subsidiary. Our vision, a safer future, managing radioactive waste effectively to protect people and the environment. And the mission is both to deliver a geological disposal facility, but also effective waste management solutions, because clearly the packages that come to the GDF have to be in a form and a configuration that is compatible with the GDF. So rather than have the possibility of everything being repackaged, reworked later, we're trying to make sure that it's all done first time, ready to go. The basics of the GDF project: a suitable site with a willing community. That means we've got to have the right geology, but I work in stakeholder engagement, finding the willing community, engaging with them, talking to them about the opportunities and what they would see as their concerns as well, and engaging with them. That's going to be a longer process. We expect to be talking to a number of different communities and right through the build-up until we actually select the site. Waste, as I've explained, packaged in a form suitable for permanent disposal. At the moment, everything is in interim stores. This is a permanent disposal method. And a robust safety case and design for that facility. We've recently published the latest iteration of our safety case. That's on our website. It goes to 33 volumes so far. And if you would like to read it, it's on our website. Details at the end. So this is the timeline that was in the 2014 white paper that set out the policy. And as you can see, it was 2014, around 2 years for the first stage. Now, when I was doing maths at university, they did ask me to leave at the end of the first year, but even I know that that's not 2 years from then. But then we have had 2 general elections and a referendum on the European Union during that period, and it tends to slow government down when they have these things getting in the way. But I'll come back to what that process is about. We're due to complete that section fairly quickly. Then we have 15 to 20 years between starting the siting process and getting ready to actually put the first spade in the ground. That's quite a long time. And again, for people like me engaged in stakeholder engagement, how do you keep a community involved for 15 to 20 years? The people that make the final decision about whether this is going to go ahead are probably at school at the moment. They're not the movers and shakers from today. It's a different generation. People will move into and out of communities. Issues will change. So there's a big issue there for us at RWM in keeping that process moving forward. 15 to 20 years, it's not sign on a dotted line, we'll be along next week to do the assessment, and then if you're lucky, we'll be doing it in 18 months' time. It's a long process. And then, of course, it's going to be open for more than 100 years based on the inventory that we're planning against at the moment. And, of course, none of it gets built. The community, if the community backs out, they have that option throughout the process, right up to the final point at which there will be a public test of support. Up till that time, they can walk away from it. So can we if we think the geology won't work or there's some other reason. So it's an iterative process over a long period of time. And even if we think it's a good idea and the community agrees, the Office of Nuclear Regulation and the Environment Agency also have to agree that what we're putting forward really does work. So it's a long process, complicated, but it's got to be right. Those three bits at the beginning, the initial actions, the things that were in the white paper as having to be done before we really started the siting process in earnest. National Geological Screening. One of the things that came out of the last process was people wanted to know more about what was under their feet. You know, is the geology really suitable? There was some quite strong discussions and debates and arguments about that. So one of the things we were asked to do as RWM was to look at the geology of the UK, apart from Scotland, which don't have a GDF policy, and try and work out what we do know about the geology and what we don't know. And I think one of the things that's come out is that actually below 200 meters, which is the minimum depth for a GDF, there's a lot we don't know about geology, and we're going to have to find out a lot more when working with the individual communities. But we are we can, when a community comes forward, say, well, from what we can see at a high level about your geology, it's worth us having a conversation. And that's one of the points behind this. The GDF is designated as a nationally significant infrastructure project. That puts it in a different type of planning regime. And the boreholing that will precede that also is covered by development consent orders, all part of that process. So there will be a public consultation on the national policy statement that's been developed to explain how that goes forward. And also, it has to go through a select committee in Parliament. There may be a parliamentary debate on it over the planning aspects of GDF. And finally, working with communities. What form does this community take? What constitutes a community? Who out of a community has the right to initiate discussions with the developer? How many people are needed? Does the local authority have to be engaged? There is a certain amount of money available during the course of the development work facilitating this process, but also development investment as well. Who's entitled to access that funding? All these questions. And the government has got some ideas, and they're going to put that out to public consultation. With both these public consultations and the parliamentary scrutiny, at the end of it, there will be final policy issued. And at that point, RWM as the developer can see that's the framework. Let's go out, find a community, deliver this facility for the country. So we don't know exactly when those consultations are going to take place, but we believe they're imminent. But it's a decision for government, not for us. But what we do know is they will be government-led, i.e. they're government consultations, they're not RWM consultations. We will support as much as possible, but they are government consultations. There'll be two of them, one on the planning, one working with communities. They're probably, if they ran over Christmas, they run for 14 weeks. If they're not outside the Christmas period, then they're probably just a standard 12 weeks. There'll be a series of regional meetings, briefings, that the government will organise around the country to make sure that people can understand what's involved, what the issues are. The consultations themselves will be online, and people will need to respond online. One of the questions that's come up before is, well, if I turn up to one of these events and ask a question, that's my contribution. No, you actually have to send the contribution in. So when they come out, you know about the nuclear industry. You live in communities. You can see some of the opportunities. So it's your chance to influence the policy on the GDF. It's your chance to influence final policy on how RWM will deliver that facility. So I do ask you to take part in it when they come out. And you'll see on our website and the government's website when that will be. So I'll just go back for a second. The work will ramp up. We obviously won't be building for a few years, but there will be lots of opportunities for the supply chain, but only if it gets built. So we need your support to actually push the case for the GDF, but also to get involved and shape that policy. Thank you very much.